So first thing that we're going to be reacting to is a Spectrum post by Raygoth, an open letter to CIG, the devs, and the company itself. It's a long one too. I didn't actually read it all, so I'm kind of interested to see what they have to say, but the main reason why I picked it out is it's got 121 upvotes, and Mongrel's obviously commented on it, so he's picked it up and probably shared it amongst his community. What I'm going to say here, it does not have anything to do with game mechanics or bugs or anything like that. There are enough posts about that as it is. My issue is how you as a company and the devs seem to want to force different changes into the game that actively make it worse to play, while at the same time disregarding nearly everything the community has to say on the issue as a whole. I get that you guys are making the game, we aren't, but without the community you have no game. Without the community you have no one buying anything anymore. Without the community you have no one to play or spread the word about the game. Without the community you have nothing but a game sitting there doing nothing. The first instance I noticed this happening was the sniper scope glint. Sure, it's a small thing, but the response to the community about this was abysmal at best. I and others had major concerns about sniper glint being a thing, especially this far into the future. Even now in today's world, there are ways to prevent sniper glint at all, and it is not possible to have sniper glint at all at night since there is no light to reflect off the lens. Hell, even civilian scopes in today's time have some ways to prevent sniper glint. It would be scope glint, not sniper glint. If someone is able to get far enough out, find a hiding spot, range the scope and get a kill, then I say more power to them. Especially since after 1 to 2 shots they will have to move anyway, because at that point they will have been found out unless they have a silencer, which some guns can't even fit. All the sniper rifles can except for the scalpel, which nobody fucking uses unless they're in gun rush. The reasoning of we don't want them to be able to just kill someone from a far distance without being able to be seen is basically saying we want sniper rifles but we don't want sniper gameplay. What you say you don't want is exactly what snipers do. Getting kills from a hidden vantage point and staying hidden is the point of being a sniper. Sniper glint is a small issue, but it can start snowballing quickly. I love sniper rifles in this game, but the way the sniper glint is being talked about and implemented, I don't see the point of them. You can't stay hidden as a sniper, there is no point in being a sniper. Well, they like sniper gameplay. Almost all the responses from the devs were dismissing every concern that people had about this change, going from realism while suspending belief, all the way to we are thinking of different ideas to balance them. None of these responses were worded in a way that felt like you were listening to anyone at all. We were giving you guys ideas, but either there was no response to them or they were denied outright. Here we go. Moving on from that, we have the next debacle. Master modes. Some like this change, the majority did not. I am included in the not. I much preferred the original way of flying, the way before master modes was implemented, because you felt like you're in space. Sure, jousting was an issue, a way of fighting that we weren't able to move away from properly, but it was more preferred over what we have now in my opinion. I know it is early in its implementation and things will likely change, like different jobs getting different versions of master modes instead of nav mode and fighting mode, but as it stands now, I'd very much prefer to go back to the way things were. I can't say anything about how you guys responded here in Spectrum, but with the way this change was implemented, it felt like you guys just barreled over everyone in the community to get the new changes out, not taking their concerns into consideration at all. I feel like if you had listened, then things would not have been so harsh in the forums. Ooh, I've got some fucking commentary on that one. Got fucking shit to say about that. I want to read this all out first, and I'll go back through. And now here we are at the newest patch, and yet again it feels like people are not being listened to, or are actively being ignored. Changes are being implemented that no one asked for, change to the skybox, and changes that actively make the game feel worse to play. The new inventory. Geez, where do I even start with this? I get it, we were going to be moving away from the way it was anyway. This was a given, but with the way it's being implemented, it feels like you didn't take into consideration the fact that realism is not always the best way to go about doing things. You know, realism is the things that you guys want to go for, but the new inventory system, let's just say too much realism can be an active detriment. Too much realism adds in too many chances for bugs to happen because there are so many variables for the programming to go through. In a lot of cases, you need to suspend or even get rid of realism entirely so that the game can continue to be enjoyable. In the case of sniper glint above, realism should be kept. You cannot tell me that the manufacturers wouldn't take light glinting into consideration or thermal imaging. I know this can be hard to implement. I still say you should talk to Arma 3 modders about this one. But when it comes to inventory mechanics, you need to make it more streamlined. going through and changing loadouts like it is now is novel the first couple of times, but then it becomes way too tedious, especially when the engines of a ship sends everything flying when it's in its hangars. A room separated from the hangar itself would help this most likely. Realism is great in games, but you guys are taking it way too seriously, especially for the time period that the game is set in. You seem to be focusing on realism more in today's time, rather than however many hundreds of years in the future this game is set. You guys have created this amazing universe in Star Citizen, but you are holding yourselves back by putting the limitations of realism in place, especially the realism in 2024, instead of hundreds of years in the future. I want this game to succeed, I really do. Star Citizen is more unique than people give it credit for. Please stop adding and changing things in the name of realism when you can be taking things into such a better direction. Hundreds of years into the future, the technology should be so much more advanced than we have seen in the game so far. Stop limiting the game behind today's realism and start working on a game that feels more like the timeline you have set it in. And for the love of everything, give us some kind of landing camera that isn't just third person. This person just doesn't like change. That's what this is. They just don't like change. Alright, let's start with sniper glint, eh? Yeah, this person is, as Blue Manx has pointed out though, like, this person doesn't mention Jumptown at all. And the situation that we've had at Jumptown, like I've been in this sort of situation where I've had somebody sniping us and we can't find them. And it's because they do the smart thing where they take a couple of pot shots and then they move. And we end up in this position where we're like, okay, we think it came from this rough direction. So we go looking there and they've already moved to a completely different spot and then they do the same thing again. And you end up in this, you know, little battle. Like, they're talking about using scopes and, you know, tech that we have these days to be able to stop or reduce sniper glint or scope glint, which is literally just light reflecting off of the glass of the site itself. But there's also technology out there that's designed to specifically pick up on light reflecting off shiny surfaces like sights, watches, camera lenses, things like that. There's tech that military uses to do that. And if they detect any sort of like light reflecting, because light reflecting off of a scope or a camera lens or even your watch has a different, I can't remember the exact terminology that they say, but like you've got natural reflection of light, you know, off water, for example, and then you got the stuff that reflects off glass. So the amount of light that can be given off, you know, reflecting off of glass is unnatural. So when you set these devices up to detect any sort of unnatural sources of light reflection, these devices pick it up. I agree to a certain point when it comes to scope glint, especially when you scope glint at night. That's fucking dumb. The way I think it should be handled though is that the combat helmets just have the devices built into them that can pick up on scopes on, you know, rifle sights that have glass on them. Any sight that has glass in it, combat helmets can pick up on that stuff. But you got to be looking at it from the correct angle. Not you look around and it's just everywhere. Blue's got a better idea? What's the better idea? Get rid of it completely? Make everybody have to look for them? Here's the thing though, like they're talking about a single person. Night vision as an attachment to helmets and thermal scopes and weapon attachments. Oh man. Forget about that. 900 years in the future, that's all lost technology. With what old mate's talking about here though, like they're talking about a sniper as though a single person doing this. Wait until you've got 4 or 5 guys doing this and they're just spread out around Jumptown. You can fuck with people a lot doing that. You know, just have your 4 teammates all around different sides, shoot one person, wait until everybody runs over, reacts to that, shoot another person from a different side. You just end up like fucking around with people for so long. Like it's obvious that they like their sniper gameplay and they want to be the person that's being the sneaky one and, you know, getting that, you know, one shot, one kill type shit. And they probably don't play with a lot of other players doing this one particular role. But here's the reality in an MMO. People play in groups. And if you can get a group of people to fuck with another group of people using a tool or a mechanic to be able to exploit weaknesses in that group, they're gonna do it. We'll do it. But here's the other thing as well, is like the scope glint only happens when you're ADS. So after you shoot someone, don't ADS. Like Blue, you're right, the 4x scopes have no glint, but eventually we'll be seeing, you know, server performance at a point where the higher powered scopes are a viable option. And I don't know exactly CIG's, you know, wording, but them talking about CIG's reasoning here, you know, we don't want them to be able to just kill someone from a far off distance without being able to be seen. I can't remember if CIG said that or said words to that effect. If they said that sentence, it's been worded poorly by CIG, because the design intent for introducing scope glint in FPS shooters is to make camping something that is an active activity. Like, if you're going to be a sniper, you can't just sit in one spot and just keep nailing everyone over and over again. Like, that's not fun for everybody else that's playing in the gameplay space. It's fun for that one person who's sitting there with the sniper rifle just axing everyone. They're having a good old time. But the other, you know, if we're saying a battlefield map or whatever, like the other 31 people, if it's a bloody free-for-all, they're all having a shit time. You only remember them saying jump town degenerates killing people during the event. Well, there's more to what snipers should do than just killing people. Like, the most valuable thing that a sniper can do is provide intel. That's something that a lot of people don't seem to understand, though. Is like, and you know, we're talking the difference between military tactics and a video game, and you know, making sure that it's fun for everyone. In the military, you want every single advantage that you can have over your opponent so that you're going to win. There is no such thing as fair fights in the military. It's about winning. That's why we have rules. Because if we didn't have the rules, we'd do some pretty fucked up shit to win. But in a video game, if you end up in this position where you've got one person there, they're just axing everyone with a sniper rifle and no one can find them, who the fuck is going to want to keep playing? Who's going to want to go to that space? Do you know the actual real-world military application of dealing with a sniper is? If you can get away with it, you drop a bomb on them. You work out roughly where they are and you drop a fucking bomb on them. That's how you deal with them. Because doing it any other way is too risky. Too much of a pain, and if that sniper did happen to move, if you drop a bomb on them, they probably didn't go very far from that last position. When we didn't have sniper glint or whatever, we were in a group, we baited the sniper, looked for the shooting location and started to chase them easy. Yeah, we've done that too, but not everybody can do that. What happens when you've got like 4 different snipers in the area doing this exact same thing? Like, this very example is just about one person, right? They're just talking about, oh, I want to be able to do this. And everybody seems to think, you know, that one sniper, the example that I've been using about, you know, Battlefield, that one sniper just fucking everyone up and ruining their gameplay. All right, you know, like, that's why they introduce those sorts of things there. But we're playing an MMO, and we're going to go into a server meshed environment where you can have hundreds of players in the exact same location. And what's going to happen when you have a bunch of snipers, a bunch of players there with sniper rifles, just picking another group off? What are you going to do then? Drop bombs all the time everywhere you go? Maybe. Try and go hunting them down. Your team goes out, you bait out one sniper, you all go to hunt them down, you get ambushed by the rest of the snipers and destroyed. Then what? You also got to remember that the bloody gameplay space that we're playing in is a lot larger than games like Battlefield, Call of Duty and things like that. Your fucking respawn point may still be 10 minutes away. And if they're smart, they'll make sure that they'll destroy any respawn point that you got set up first. And here's the thing though, and this is something that everybody keeps ignoring, the glint only happens when you ADS. So if you're sitting there ADS the entire time, you're going to get spotted, right? So don't be ADS the entire time. Just watch your area, pick out your potential target, ADS on them to see what's going on, move around, quick ADS again, take the shot if you need to. But yeah, like, I can tell you right now, it's a problem in all FPS games in a gameplay space like Star Citizen, where people think of playing it like it's just a FPS shooter like Battlefield or Call of Duty or PlanetSide, without considering the fact that you're actually playing a tactical shooter where respawn isn't quick, where re-equipping all your equipment isn't quick, which is ironic because they have a circular about that later on in their post. So anything that you do when you're playing this game, you need to actually think a little bit further ahead. So having anybody, you know, just basically being able to, take pot shots at people without any sort of like repercussions is going to piss a lot of people off. Catching up on the chat here. Snipers were never an issue in Battlefield. They were balanced by map design. The maps had a limited area. SC combat is different. Well, yeah, like the map design in Star Citizen is limited to points of interest, and they can mitigate snipers using location design, but they can't do it for everything, especially when they're doing procedural generation. And you're right, Lever, was it 8 and 16 times if you ADS with it? 8 and 16 times with glint. I'm not even going to bother commenting on that, Heavy Bob, about the glint and the assassination. We need binoculars to have an option to watch from a distance, and it could just be a helmet setting there, Blue. Just use your helmet. So you disincentivize the scout? No, like, there's a problem where when people have a sniper rifle and they're designated as the scout, especially in this game, they want to kill things instead of actually do their job as scout and provide intel. It's like, we need to know how many people are there first before you start killing people. Like, this is the point that I was making. Like, people keep treating Star Citizen combat in the persistent universe like it's Battlefield or Call of Duty or PlanetSide. It's not like that. An individual's mistake can set an entire team back half an hour to an hour. Like, just crashing your ship into another one could undo an hour's worth of work. You don't want your snipers to start killing people. They need to be disciplined enough to wait. You don't want them killing people before a certain time. They're gonna have to wait. And when people are playing a video game, they don't like to wait, as Oldmate makes a lot of complaints about. Yeah, Doug, you're right. It's more like armor in the broad sense, but players do need to take into account that when you take a role like being a sniper and you apply a specific scenario to it, then yeah, like, this is shit. Adding scope glint is a shit change for the person who's playing as a sniper. But we're playing a game with more than just that one sniper, or that one player who wants to be a sniper. We're playing with a group of people who want to do a range of different things. So when you end up in this position, though, where you're dealing with multiple scenarios where people can be potentially doing multiple things in environments where you can't always predict the outcome, when you identify something that does create a huge imbalance from a game design perspective, you need to do something to balance that. And this isn't the best solution. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of scope glint. I think CIG needs to make scope glint a lot more granular in terms of being a mechanic. It shouldn't be something that every helmet should see. You shouldn't see scope glint at night unless you've got like a fucking combat visor with night vision on it. And even then, it should still be very difficult to do. Non-combat helmets shouldn't see scope glint at all, regardless of the angle that you're looking at the person to. But not having scope glint in the game tips a favor too far in the direction of everybody always using snipers to create ambushes. That's the way it ends up going. That's the way I see it always going. You remove scope glint completely, there is no incentive for a sniper to actually move. People sit there and go, oh, well, like, we can bait them out, we can do this and we can do that. I've seen this, we've chased snipers around before. Individuals and teams of them. It's not as easy as what people say, and what we end up doing is we just all pull away from the area and just bomb the fuck out of it until we're happy that they're dead, because that's the easiest way of dealing with it. And if it always ends up being we're dealing with a sniper, everybody pull out, we're just going to bomb the area. Like, who the fuck is going to want to be a sniper then? I've had situations where snipers have been cornered and killed on foot, so have I. Like, you're always going to have a variety of different scenarios where you are successful in taking them out and when you're unsuccessful in taking them out. But the audience that I'm talking to, a lot of them do PvP combat. Not everybody does that within our community, and they're going to have to learn to be able to deal with these scenarios. The solution can't be just drop a bomb on it for everything. I know some people just want it to be like that. The explosions are cool, but that can't be the solution for everything. So CIG needs to create some sort of balancing effect here. Like, this person bringing up sniper glint or scope glint, out of all the things to be frustrated at, this is like minimal. Unless being like a sniper is the only thing that you want to do in Star Citizen, this just isn't that big of a deal. There are no stakes that important to justify spending the time to kill one sniper. Well, here's the thing though, Blue. Like, when it comes to what's going on with scope glint versus, even your scenario, I know you're memeing, but there's a point of discussion there. You can make it extremely difficult as a sniper to find you. Like, if you're trying to, and I've been in this scenario before, I've been on stream when this has been happening, where I've been at a Daymar jump down, me and one other guy. We have no idea where the sniper is, and they're running around the outside of the bloody location. We are trying to load up the ship that we've got with boxes. And the moment we attempt to do that, they take a shot. We can't call in reinforcements because nobody else is around, so what do? We got to go find them. We got to go deal with the problem. I spent close to an hour hunting around for a sniper, and I eventually got them. But the main problem that I had was the rendering distance. They were engaging from just inside the rendering distance, and then they were pulling out far away enough that I couldn't see them as they were moving. Now, if they had scope glint, we would have been able to work out where they were and been able to put fire in that position and force them to move. But instead, they'd fire a few shots, and by the time we worked out where they were firing from, because we actually would like identify them by their traces, and we'd start moving towards that position to engage them, they were gone. Run serpentine until they ran out of ammo. They were close enough to jump down where they could just pull more ammo out, man. They eventually switched to a railgun because we did end up doing that. We started ignoring them. So they pulled out a railgun and just started hammering the ship. And we're like, well, fuck, we can't ignore that. Yeah, now we got to find them. And they thought they were being clever too. When I did find them, they went prone because I was in a ship. They thought that I couldn't see them, and I sniped them from inside the ship. But that's the thing, is like CIG can't account for that scenario where, like, you know, rendering distance being, you know, render distances being off, some people being able to see objects further away than others. Oaklint kind of like brings that fairness back to the fight. As I said before, it only happens when you ADS, and it's only happening when you're using 8 by or 16 by scopes. And if you're doing your job as a sniper well, scope glint could literally just be one of those things where it's like, hey, okay, I've got my target acquired, hold breath, fire, watch the target drop. All right, I don't need to ADS anymore. It's only going to be a problem when you're just sitting there in ADS the entire time looking at things. They can fix the game instead of introducing lazy mechanics. How is scope glint a lazy mechanic? You know what I'd end up doing if they didn't have scope glint? Because I'll tell you now, like, if there's scope glint in the game and I spot somebody by their scope glint, I'm not going to drop a bomb on the entire place. I may direct fire in that direction, but I won't pull everybody out, which means packing everybody up, pulling everybody out of the area, flying an A2, dropping a bomb, and then waiting until and hoping that we actually got them. The most low effort solution. Well, what's the better solution here? Because we already had shot trails. You already had traces coming out of bloody sniper rifles. You just had to make sure that you had the right angle when it was being fired. Fixed render distance. That's an infamous response for video games. Like, fixing render distance won't address the problem though with snipers. Because if they're hidden, it doesn't matter what the render distance is like. They're hidden. Make sniper harding. Well, they are harding. Harder. How? They already have ballistic drop. They have ballistic drop in environments where it shouldn't be dropping, in an effort to try and make it harder. They remove the auto zero feature. So if you want to actually fire your shots and increase the chances of getting a first round hit, you actually need to make adjustments to your range. Most people don't know that because most people are engaging below 100 meters. Make traces work consistently. Well, then you're back to the scope glint problem, because people won't want the traces because it'll make it look like, oh, well, we can actually see where they're coming from now. And it's one shot that a sniper does. They might follow up with a second one because they're hitting a target that's wearing heavy armor. Or if you do the smart thing and you're going after somebody with heavy armor, you take 2 snipers and they both shoot at the same time from different angles. Sound design working consistently? What happens if there's a ship flying above you? Like, have you guys seen Enemy at the Gates, where old mate Vasily times his shots so that he fires them at the same time as artillery going off? 100%, 90% Hollywood, but the principle of using audio around your target to mask audio sounds that you're making is 100% a military tactic. And having better level design. You can't account for the level design of every single location in a procedurally generated environment. You can't account for that. There have been times where we've downed a target while we've been doing piracy, and the pilot, you know, props to them, got out with their sniper rifle. Thick grass around us. This happened on Aberdeen, and they pulled back and they were sniping at us. We had to use ships. We had to run around like chickens with their heads cut off to try and bait them out. And then when we did work out the rough direction they were from, One of us fortunately was smart enough to bring a grenade launcher, and we just started popping grenades off in that area. And then a ship fired their weapons from above the target when they saw the explosions from the grenade launcher round. Like, we've had the game for so long without scope glint. Dealing with snipers isn't something impossible to do, but it's a massive drain on resources. And the person being the sniper doesn't have to try as hard either. Like, that's the other side of this that I don't think people are understanding, is that scope glint forces you to take into account that you can't sit there and just watch somebody forever and just take pot shots at people however you want from a position of advantage. Because when the first shot goes off, everybody's looking. They spot your scope glint, you're fucked. Space game, bro. World War II era sniper glint in a space game set hundreds of years into the future sounds silly. It should never be implemented even if it fixed something. Yeah, so does World War II era flight combat. We should all be doing beyond the horizon attacks with missiles and attacking each other in the boxes with drones, firing missiles from hundreds of kilometers away from each other as well. Plenty of games out there that could already do that. There's a reason why it's done, because we want a more visceral experience. I see backers are too old, and in CIG in their meeting were like, see, they're 50 years old, they need a flashlight. Man, I'm just waiting for like the time where I get a dead pixel on my screen and I think it's a sniper getting me. Biggest giveaway for a sniper is muzzle flash. Not anymore, man. But for the last few decades, there's been tech out there that is able to pick up the reflection of light off of lenses, the glass of scopes. That's why you see the bloody honeycomb bloody light refractors. Space game, bro. Scope glint is lazy of dumb fix to a problem that could be fixed using other methods. Well, Fran already gave a go at providing methods, and I provided answers to why it wouldn't work that way. Don't forget, these are just opinions that I have too. Like, I'm not a big fan of how scope glint has been implemented. I think it needs to be a lot more granular than what it is now, but I don't think it's 100% a stupid idea to have it there to provide answers to my answer. Yeah, that's understandable, mate. Yeah, I can tell you now, like, I'm glad that I'm out of the military. Half the tech that we have, like half the tech that we know about that exists when it comes to finding people out in the battlefield, and the tech used to engage those people in a way that they have no fucking idea that they're about to die, scares me. It genuinely scares me, because you just have no idea that it's going to happen, in the next minute, bang, you're dead. I mean, Star Citizen is a weird case of Battlestar Galactica style of retrofuturism. We do have planes today that basically fly and land themselves, yet we don't have spaceships that can keep a bearing, let alone some basic autopilot features. We today have more advanced things than the supposed 100 years ahead in the future of Star Citizen. I think a lot of people forget that we're playing a video game, and that you play a video game to be entertained, but also be involved with what's actually going on in the video game. If CIG kept taking real life examples and implementing them, then yeah, like, you wouldn't actually fly your spaceship. You would just sit in a bloody little fucking box somewhere else and you'd be flying it remotely. And they could say that there's some bullshit technology out there where you're using quantum entanglement to be able to control your ship, getting fed all the data in real time. You could have AI pretty much identifying and prioritizing all the targets for you. You could have AI set up so that the AI just engages the targets for you. And then you're back at this point where you're just playing a game where you're not actually playing it, you're just watching what the fuck is going on. I understand that there's things that people want to bring in to try and make things easier for themselves, but then in the next breath, and old mate goes into this to a certain degree, people complain about, you know, certain features that take too long and they want to be engaged with what's going on. So it's like, and this is part of the point that I want to get to towards the end, but CIG does need to work out where they want players to be engaged with what's going on in the game, and where players can, you know, kind of just not be involved in certain busy work. All the game needs is some kind of technology to find snipers. There's no need for sniper glint, drones, heat cameras, whatever. There are many ways to do it. Like, there's technology, I keep saying this, but there's technology that picks up on the bloody reflection of light off of a glass. Even at night it can pick it up. Like, that's literally scope glint. That's why sites that are being issued over in Ukraine have honeycomb bloody attachments on them. And the ones that don't come with the honeycomb attachments on them, they're either trying to put tape on them to reduce the amount of light being reflected out so they don't get fucking discovered and axed by a drone, or they're 3D printing their own honeycomb attachments to put onto their sites. There is literally a real world example right now that is being used that fucking can pick sniper scopes up. You just can't see it with your own physical eyes, but the machine does it, and it uses the principles of scope glint. Like you guys keep saying real world examples, there's literally one that I've just been describing. It's right there. And then people go, oh, it's lazy. Like, no, it's not. It works. They're able to put it in there, and it forces you as the sniper to fucking think a little bit more. Not a lot, just a little bit more. Just catching up with the chat. We're kind of getting away from the topic that's been discussed here though, like, you know, the principles of what's these, all their design principles, because that's what a lot of this is like people have issues with design principles that CIG is making or design decisions. And essentially that's what this open letter is, but there seems to be this direction that the chat's going in away from the topic that we're talking about. I can understand why though, because we're talking about something and it cascades into many different points of discussion that has to do with CIG's design decisions. Yeah, we're still in the first point of the first item and we're like, what, an hour and 10 minutes in? Probably like 40 minutes into this one. Well, Lou, back in Iraq, they were using microphones to triangulate just the audio from a shot, which was just nuts. I thought, oh yeah, they'd have the microphones spread out. No, they're all fucking next to each other. They had these microphones that was sensitive enough to do that. So they didn't even need to know where the shot landed. They just needed to hear it and they could pinpoint it. And then they'll do counter battery fire. It was quite impressive and scary at the same time. But there you go again. Like, that sort of tech exists. They could implement that there where you fire a sniper rifle shot and then a fucking little icon appears in the position where it came from and say the microphones on your body, on the suits of your party members all picked up on it and it triangulated the position of the sniper, and then you are 100% fucked. Could do that. Oh, Lou, the military was using it well before then. Like, I remember seeing it in Iraq and I'm just like, what the fuck is this thing? Like, oh yeah, it tells us where the snipers are firing from. Alright, is that a 50 cal? You know, Jenkins let one. Houston PD have been using it since the 90s. Yeah, like the tech's been around for a while. I remember seeing it in Iraq. Anyway, we're starting to get off topic about pretty different things that could be used as a solution. Scope glint, it's a thing. People just have to learn to deal with it. Hopefully CIG iterates on it, but I don't see that as like a bad design decision from CIG. Their main complaint though, aside from the scope glint, was that the devs weren't listening, right? All the responses from the devs were dismissing every concern that people had about this change, going from realism while suspending belief all the way to we're thinking of different ideas to balance them. None of these responses were worded in a way that felt like you were listening to anyone at all. We were giving you guys ideas, but either there was no response to them or they were denied outright. Well, you did get a response when they denied them outright. Like, this just reads, we didn't hear the thing, oh, sorry, not we. I didn't hear the things that I wanted to hear. I'm gonna make my stance very clear on the scope glint. I do not think it's stupid. I think it needs to be iterated on to improve it, but I think it's a good balanced design for dealing with sniper gameplay in an environment where you can be attacked at any time from any direction by anyone. When you start taking that into account, you'll start understanding why sniper glint, well, the scope glint is a thing. You wanted the F-22 Raptor, so you asked, but they said no? Mate, should have told me. I would have fucking refunded too. Hold up, I'm gonna go log into Star Citizen refunds now. Bullshit, man. Where's my F-22 Raptor? Oh, the missiles in Star Citizen need a lot more work. Well, let's keep this going because we're gonna be stuck on this forever. This paragraph here, as I was saying though, reads as though I didn't hear the things that I wanted to hear, so you guys aren't listening to me. And it's like, well, no, they are listening. We're just not telling you the things that you want to hear. I think that's part of the problem that this guy has, is that they can't understand that CIG doesn't have to tell him the things that he wants to hear. Moving on from that, we have the next debacle, master modes. Holy shit. Some like this change, the majority did not. Bullshit, you do not know that information. No one knows that information. Not enough of us know whether or not the majority of the community likes or does not like master modes. And it's obvious that they say the majority did not, because the next sentence, I am included in the not. I much preferred the original way of flying, the way before master modes was implemented, because you felt like you're in space, even when you're in atmosphere. Sure, jousting was an issue, a way of fighting that we weren't able to move away from properly, but it was more preferred over what we have now, in my opinion. Master modes was not introduced to address jousting. Like, if you think that that's what they introduced master modes for, you don't understand why they actually did it. Like, Enigma, hello. And I actually agree with your point. I'll get to that eventually though. I know it's early in its implementation and things will likely change, like different jobs getting different versions of master mode instead of nav mode and fighting mode, but as it stands, now I'd very much like to go back to the way things were. Don't like change. Change too much, don't fucking like it, change it back. They can't handle change, what this is. Can't understand how anything about you guys responded here in Spectrum, but with the way this change was implemented, it felt like you guys just barreled over everyone in the community to get the new changes out, not taking concerns into consideration at all. I feel like if you had listened, then things would not have been so harsh in the forums. Motherfucker, we had bloody master modes in Arena Commander for how long? There was an entire experimental mode in Arena Commander for master modes for people to go and test and give their feedback. And people were doing that. And CIG was listening to the people giving feedback and iterating on it when it was in the experimental mode in Arena Commander. And when it got into the PU and somebody like this person here could actually be bothered to give feedback on it, they're like, oh, why aren't you listening to me? Because CIG is going to listen to the people who put more than 5 fucking minutes into the testing of it. That's what they're going to do. It's catching up on chat here. They did remove the auto ranging system as well, Lou. You can't auto range anymore. In fact, it's made, because they've removed that, they've actually made most of the scopes useless. You gotta try and get the right ones that at least have graticals on them so that you can do some sort of gratical ranging. But coming back to master mode stuff. Space Game Bro. I think people who like master modes are mostly new players who don't know any better. In my experience, the longer someone has played Star Citizen, the more likely it is that they hate master modes. I've been playing Star Citizen since the Arena Commander module. I've tested the majority of the flight models. I don't have a favorite. I can tell you now, the ones that I hated the most was the one that we had for the longest. I know some people liked it, really fucking liked it, but I hated it. And there was a major reason why. Because it was too easy for somebody to just disengage from the fight. They started losing, they could just fuck off. And it was way too easy to disengage. Committing to a fight meant nothing, which is a huge issue to me. You want to start a fight with me and I start kicking your ass, that's not... You want to try and run away? Fine, but you're going to get punished for it. And that's what nav mode, like that's what master modes brings into flight combat. If you're going to fight someone and you're going to attack someone, you have to commit. You can't just half-ass go in there, take a few shots. Yeah, I'm winning. I'll just finish the fight. Oh shit, I'm losing. I'll just fuck off into the black. You know, and just fucking tri-cord my way to fucking freedom. Fucking hated it. Like, they do need to iterate on master modes, don't get me wrong. But master modes in comparison to what we fucking had before, I would take master modes every day. And I've been playing fucking Star Citizen since bloody the Arena Commander module. I am not a new player to Star Citizen. That said, the amount of feedback that CIG has received with master modes, they really do need to be looking at how players are actually giving the feedback and trying to pull, you know, the actual issues out, because a lot of people are just saying it doesn't feel like I'm in space, and it's like, what the fuck does that even mean? Are you a fucking astronaut? Like, how do you understand what space is supposed to feel like? Oh, you know, if I go in one direction I should be able to keep going in there, then fucking decouple. Oh, but I'm not moving, you know, fast enough. How the fuck do you actually know you're moving that fast beyond the numbers that they put on the screen? Like, CIG could just start making up numbers and just putting numbers in there, and they could just tell you, yeah, you're moving at like 1,000 meters a second, and then just set the distances, you know, a calculation up, do an algorithm that calculates the distance between two ships so that it makes it, the numbers appear as though they're that far away, but visually you can see them as though they're like 100 meters away. Right? But then people would start creating that connection there and they'd be going, wait a second, that's not right. Nothing to do with the game, making the gameplay more fun. It's about trying to improve performance and get ready for consoles. No, it's about making the game more fun. Like, I don't care about the fucking argument about consoles. I think that's a dumb argument to be making. Improving performance, yes, because we as pirates had to develop tactics around the desync that we would experience, which was dumb. We shouldn't have to fucking do that. And I can tell you now, there is no optimizations that CIG could do to fix the problems that we have, because it is nothing to do with the hardware at that point and everything to do with mathematics and the change of positioning between one client to another. CIG can make the most optimized game. You got two clients from different sides of the world moving at high speeds, and one of them makes a change. By the time it translates into a signal that gets the other client, they're not going to be fucking shooting in the right spot. And it doesn't matter how much client-side prediction that you attempt to do, there is absolutely nothing in that we currently have in our technology bloody suite of tools that we can use that can adjust for that. So from a technology standpoint, yes, they do need to slow things down. But the whole point about, you know, it being made for consoles, that doesn't fucking matter. Like, that is literally an irrelevant point, because they could keep the old flight model with the consoles as well. Like, they didn't have to change the flight model for console gameplay. The main problem I had with the flight model, the old one, was the lack of commitment to a fight. And I agree, like, everybody that brings up the point that Master Modes has an issue with one-on-one fights, 100% agree with that. I don't know what CIG can do to fix that other than giving us a higher acceleration, but then, you know, like, we have to suspend belief that we're pulling G's that a human physically shouldn't be able to do, but we're 900 years in the future, so why not? You know, like, let's just apply that fucking little bit of logic whenever we feel like it, right? The CIG does. I think the main problem that people have had when it's come to, like, talking about master modes is they're not articulating themselves in a way that CIG can understand. And it's a problem because the flight model, the way that we play it, we can only really talk about the perspective of feel. So it doesn't feel right. Old mate saying it feels like you're in space. You know, the old flight model, it's like, what the fuck does that even mean? We're all sacks of med gel in the Star Citizen future, 100%. Soylent Green. There you go. Wait, you're not wrong, Lou, with the acceleration problem, because you still got to send that data across. This is actually one of the things, dual universe. You know, I was really into dual universe, like, as the concept when they were still building it out, until they mentioned how combat was supposed to go, where it used an EVE Online style targeting system and auto fire. I understand why they did that, because of the issues that we're facing, you know, that we're seeing in Star Citizen. But from an optimization point of view, they do need to slow combat down to make it a bit more manageable, you know. But there's things that CIG could do to trick us into thinking that we're going faster than what we actually are. And maybe that's what they need to do. Maybe they, you know, like, they keep master modes as the flight model, but they just start tweaking the numbers so it looks like we're going faster than what we are. Honestly, I think a lot of people are just seeing the numbers, and they're comparing the numbers that they see now to what they've seen in the past, and they're like, oh, it doesn't feel like I'm going fast enough. And when they're trying to, you know, do these high G turns, or, you know, like, make these massive turns, they're just getting shat on. Yeah, I just found dual universe boring in general. Took fucking forever to do anything, like, longer than Star Citizen. It's like, you know, CIG gave the chance to everybody to be giving feedback on master modes. We had it for ages in Arena Commander. Plenty of time to be giving feedback then, and he's still taking feedback on master modes, the flight model, making changes. But right now they're just tweaking the ships. Modern dogfighters dogfight at Mark II. Yeah, they do it for all like a second, then they black out and get fucking missiled to death. Still feel like the Mark II release time with master modes going live was such a bad balance idea and left a bad taste in people's mouths. Imagine your only experience in Squadron Battle and an arrow was entirely against an entire lobby of Mark IIs. Yeah, that's a problem that Star Citizen has had. There's always been a meta ship. There's never been a meta class, it's always been a meta ship. And, you know, CIG, I've maintained this stance for a long time. Hey, Bozy, I've maintained this stance for a long time when it's come to the flight model and flight combat. CIG can't do any sort of true balancing of the flight combat model until they have all the systems involved with flight combat in. And we're missing the armor system. We're missing the different damages that you can implement based on armor. The plasma scattergun is supposed to do plasma damage to your ship's hull. Do you know what plasma damage is? Doesn't mean anything right now because we fucking haven't had it. We've had the plasma scattergun since, I'm pretty sure we've had it since the Arena Commander module. Didn't mean shit though. But plasma damage is supposed to be the type of damage that sticks to the hull of your ship and does damage over time. But we don't even have that. How the fuck can they be balancing the flight combat model without something like that? Especially when damage to a ship is supposed to affect its performance in atmosphere or just in general. You know, could you imagine getting hit by a plasma fire and it melting a thruster and then causing a bloody explosion and blowing off a fucking wing? That shit's supposed to be possible, right? You can't balance the flight combat model without all the flight combat mechanics involved. And we haven't had that ever. We've gotten little bits of it, and CIG keeps piecemealing things in, and I can kind of understand why, because they're waiting on tech before they can implement certain things, because, what is it, the fucking Maelstrom system, I believe, is supposed to be tied into the damage system for ships soon. So why bother doing all the work on the damage system and the different, you know, damage types that can be applied to ships if the damage system mechanics aren't in yet, right? Just wait until that's done, then start applying it. But all this testing that we're experiencing right now, none of it really has anything to do with flight combat, and it has everything to do with flight feel. How does it feel? And then they're trying to dial in flight combat enough so that when they introduce the damage models, it shouldn't be as much tweaking. Different ammo types, including plasma. Yeah, well, one of the selling points of using ballistic weapons over energy is that you can change the ballistic ammo that you're using. So you could have like different bins of ammunition types. So you could have armor piercing, you could have bloody HE or some other random shit. We're still waiting on things for CIG to put in there, but they're listening to us, and they're going to take the feedback of those people who are putting more time into it over those who aren't. That's why when people say the majority, they're saying that they don't like master modes. CIG is probably sitting there going, well, the majority of them haven't played it that much because they can see it's change. CIG brought in change. People don't like change. This isn't the first time where we've had the flight model change and people didn't like it. Oh, there we go. They struggle hard to get the meta out but most of the time they fail, and I know why. As a dev by myself, I say the hardest thing in any game with PvP and PvE fights is balancing. Yeah, the problem that Star Citizen's had for pretty much since the flight model was introduced is that there's always been one ship to rule them all. One ship that is better at flight combat than every other one. Ironically, Master Modes has introduced multiple ships that are quite strong in their own rights when used in a team setting correctly. Whereas in previous flight models, everybody just flew the same ship because that's all you needed to do. He is trying to introduce archetypes into flight combat so that, like this weight class of ships flies this certain way. And from a developer perspective, if you wanted to try and, offer multiple choices of if you wanted to make sure that there wasn't a single ship that was the meta, take two ships and give them the exact same stats. Then people have the illusion of choice, right? And then what you can do is you can start tweaking them slightly off from each other. One has a bit more acceleration than the other one has a bit more armor than the other, and you just start making minor tweaks. Don't think people have mastered master modes yet? 100%. Like, when people started saying that they didn't like master modes in the first couple of days of it being released, I was sitting there and I'm like, how the fuck would you know you've barely played it unless you sat there for the last 72 hours and did nothing else? You don't know enough about this yet to sit there and say it's shit and it doesn't work. Can't tweak the cross section though. Yeah, that is true, but you can build ships that have almost similar cross sections. Could do that. Or take ships that have very similar cross sections and just put them in the same class and then balance them that way. But like CIG is trying to establish a baseline when it came to the actual flight combat modeling for balancing, and they were using the Gladius as the base, and then they stopped using the Gladius as the base and just went, okay, now it's archetypes. But yeah, like what CIG needs to do is pretty much take all the ships within an archetype and give them pretty much the same stats to start off with, and then tweak them slightly off of each other based on certain parameters. No, they haven't, Heavy Bob. They haven't made them redundant. It comes down to the people flying them. Here's the thing, the F8C and the F7C Mark II reduce the barrier of entry to flight combat. You don't need to try as hard to be good at flight combat in those ships. Of course you're seeing far less arrows and gladiuses. People don't have to try as hard in the F8C and the F7C Mark II as they would in an arrow and a gladius. And if you just end up going up against a group of those ships, then yeah, of course you're going to get shat on. And if you take people who are highly skilled and you put them in easy to use ships, then of course you're going to see a overwhelming majority of players just getting shat on. But the other ships do have their places. There's just no disadvantages to using the F8C and the F7C Mark II yet. Wait until we need to start repairing ships and it starts costing more. Wait until, using specific ships costs more to do. Replacing parts costs more. Repairing ships costs more. Do you know why it feels like you're playing through mud now, There Hazard? Because in the previous flight model, you relied on the higher speeds to avoid shots. That's the problem with the previous model though, is that if you wanted to dodge incoming fire, you just flew faster. That was it. It wasn't even the boost. If you flew over a certain speed, you could tricord your way out of fire so quickly even without boosting. Now what's happening is that when you end up in flight combat, like when you end up in a fight and you're in SEM, you don't have that same ability anymore. You can't just tricord your way out of trouble. Like there are still people out there, who are mastering master modes, and they're just shitting on everybody else around them. And it's not because they sat there and went, I don't like the flight model. They just accepted what we got given and went, all right, I'm going to get good at this. But here's the problem with that hazard, and this literally just brings you back to the problem that we had in the last flight model, and it's why CIG made boost do the thing that it does now. Is that why would you not fly at anything other than their top speed if it meant that you could dodge incoming fire? But that's it. Like that was the problem with the previous flight model. Everybody just flew faster to dodge incoming fire. That was it. That's how you ended up in fights that were like at 800 meters a second or more. If you wanted to try and engage a group and keep them all together, you had to force everybody to stay in SEM, and then people would still, like turn off their speed limiter and go to Mark fucking Jesus and just fuck off into the black, chasing a target and then get killed because they got isolated. Like, I get the point that you're making, mate, because it does feel like you're flying through mud because you're used to the old flight model where you could just go so fast at a moment's notice. You can't do that anymore. But they have boost exceed 300. Like that's the thing though, is like you can use your boost to dodge incoming fire, but it's a temporary thing. It's not like the previous flight model where it was like, okay, I can just go up to that speed, maintain and keep corkscrewing my way out of dodge. It's all right, I need it, I'm waiting for my capacitors on my weapons to recharge, so I'm going to go evasive, and I'm watching what my target's doing. I'm looking at my pip. I'm trying to make sure that they don't neutralize on me. It looks like they're about to neutralize on me. Boost. Quick burst of speed to push the line of fire of them out of the way. All right, my capacitive recharge. I'm now reacquiring the target. I need to get back on the target quicker. Boost in. It would be better if boost could not exceed 300. Then nobody will fly more. Like nobody would fly less than 300. Like that's the problem with the flight combat model of the previous flight combat model, is that everybody flew at the fastest speed that they could to dodge the incoming fire. Doesn't matter if you reduce the speed or not, people are going to complain that they can't go over that certain, speed ceiling. And if you're at max speed, where else do you have to go? How's that different from now? Well, your M speed is roughly around 200 for fighters. If you're boosting, you can push it anywhere to 300 to 400 meters. They're flying at the top speed of SCM, not the top speed of their boost. I think it would be better if the acceleration was reduced. No. CIG's pushed themselves into a corner, I believe, when it comes to master modes, in that if they're trying to if they increase the acceleration, they need to decrease the rate of fire of everybody's ship, of everybody's weapons, and slow the speeds down. Or the more logical thing is make everybody less accurate with their weapons. But they haven't done that, because the frustrating part about combat is shooting at a reticle and not getting hits. In combat, you want, like, the hit registration is like a dopamine hit in combat. So you want to, like, make sure that, as the game developer, keeping the player engaged with what's going on, you got to give them constant feedback that they're succeeding and that they should push a little bit more, take that little bit more of a risk, right? So dialing back the accuracy of the ship's weapons isn't a possibility. Reducing the capacitor amount, players will complain. They're already complaining about the low capacitors already, right? So you can't touch accuracy, you can't touch the ammunition quantity of the ships. So where else do you have to go? You have to look at the movement of the ships themselves. And this is where, like, the way that players are experiencing master modes now is that everybody still looks at master modes as though it's done, and it's still not. I've already brought up my points about armor being missing from the flight combat model. I really hope CIG doesn't scrap that, because as far as I'm concerned, if they scrap that, they have to change a lot more. You can't just, like, the damage system in a combat game is just as important as your movement system, because damage and movement influence each other. If you can't move as much, then you need to be able to take more damage. If you can't take as much damage, then you need to be able to move more. They remove the damage model, or don't even bother implementing a comprehensive damage model that complements the movement system. Flight combat will go to shit. Do I think a lot of ships have too many guns too? Some of them do. I think some of them do. I think CIG needs to find a balance where you have to use mixed loadouts. And ironically, I believe that they'll achieve that when they have the damage system in. If you get that damage system in, you'll end up in the position where players are going to have to utilize different damage types in order to achieve the same effect. So time to kill starts going up. Right now it's pretty low still, but time to kill can go up by introducing the damage system. That's why I keep saying it's so crucial. I think part of your problem, Hazard, is that you're still trying to fly the Master Mode's flight model like it's the old one. The way that you've talked about it so far is like, why doesn't CIG do this? And you know, your changes essentially bring it back to the way that the old model worked. It can be difficult to do, but you got to kind of like approach the flight model changes, because I've been through a lot of them, with a blank slate, and it's like, all right, I'm just starting from scratch again, fuck it. Well, I didn't really commit too much to the last flight model as well, because I recognized by the way through when we were using the last flight model that CIG wasn't going to stick with it. Not only from a technological standpoint, but also from like a design standpoint. It just wouldn't work. You couldn't maintain it in a bloody MMO based environment. The thing is that like Master Modes is changing everybody's flight style as well. Like it's forcing us to slow down. It's forcing us to get closer. I think one of the things that you probably need to look at doing, Hazard, is probably just doing some sessions with the FCP, and not even like flight combat sessions, but evasion based sessions with them. Because the way that you're describing the problems that you have with the current model, it seems like you're having issues maneuvering your ship in a way that you feel comfortable engaging in combat, but you feel like you can dodge your opponent's incoming fire whilst being able to position yourself to apply outgoing fire. That said, I'm quite confident CIG is going to iterate on the flight model. I don't think it'll be a drastic change considering how close they are to Squadron 42 going live, but I do believe they're going to continue iterating on the flight combat model. But that doesn't mean that they're going to do what you say, articulating your feelings about how it is. Like, to be honest, Hazard, your description of like, it feels like I'm flying in mud is actually probably a better description than what most people give when it comes to Master Modes. You know, people will sit there and go, it's not fun. It doesn't feel like I'm flying in space. It's like, well, it feels like I'm flying in mud. It feels like I'm being restricted. You know, I don't feel like I can evade incoming fire well enough. I don't feel like I can position myself or gain a position of advantage on my target. Well, here's the question for you then, Hazard. What made the previous model fun though? Because if you say the ship speeds, then you're going to have a problem, because CIG can't go back to the same old ship speeds that we had. It did not feel like mud, okay? So it just didn't feel slow. Didn't feel like movements took forever to make. Didn't feel like you got stuck in a position before being able to change your direction, because those are things that you can all do now in the master modes. It's just at a slower speed. Anyway, I think we're getting a little bit hooked up on Hazard's issue here. I think that's something that we can discuss over in Mongrel Squad. But I honestly think we can bring the fun back to Master Modes for you, Hazard. I think we can. We'll just get the FCP to beat you up for like 3 weeks straight. You should be good to go after that. And we come to this part, and now we are here at the newest patch, and yet again it feels like people are not being listened to or actively being ignored. Changes are being implemented that no one asked for. Change to Skybox. Changes that actively make the game feel worse to play. The new inventory. Geez, where do I start with this? Like, the change to the Skybox is fucking a nothing burger in comparison to everything. Like, the inventory system, holy shit. I'm still trying to work out fucking if I don't like it because it's new, or if I don't like it because it's clunky. I can tell you now, I did not like the way that the item banks were, and the change that CIG made to them was great. Like, I know people are complaining, oh, but it needs a better UI, you know, the old UI. I can't believe they're using the old UI. I can guarantee you the reason why they're using the old UI is because they weren't planning on making the change. They weren't planning on that sort of feedback being given, that players hated the, you know, step of putting your items into a box before you then take the stuff out of the box to put on you. They weren't expecting that. They did at least fix the UI so the icons are scaled for ultra wide. Yeah, fixing those UI icons is fucking a good thing that they did too. But I still don't understand why they thought that putting items from one box to another before you would put it on your body was a good idea. Like, maybe they took the principle of like, oh, well, players put things into a crate that they'll then put onto their ship, and then they'll go into the crate to put on themselves, so they'll like this, right? No, we don't. Get rid of that drawer. But people complain, oh, but you know, like, the item bank doesn't have a good UI anymore. It's like, so what? They'll fix that later. We at least have a functioning system where we can put our shit on without putting stuff into a box. I don't care about the fucking UI looking pretty straight away. What we've got looks good enough. This section here that old mate goes on as well, like, is patronizing towards CIG and the developers. Like, They understand the principle of building something out, you know, going for realism and then dialing back to fun. We have evidence of them doing that on multiple occasions. The most recent example would be the item draw rollback. They realized based on the feedback that, hey, that realistic thing that we're aiming for where people are taking things out of the warehouse and then it goes into a hopper before they put it on, players aren't resonating with that and they just want to be able to shove the shit on them. And we're going to have massive teething issues with, you know, inventory management and moving things around. The complaint that a lot of people have where they're sitting there going, oh, you know, it took me 4 hours to get all my shit from here to Grimhex, or, you know, like to the station and that, and yeah. Like, okay, do you have to do that for every single play session though? No. And I had the same complaint too, and I had to talk myself around it. Like, how often do I actually have to do this? Like, yes, it sucks that it took that long, but I'm sitting here and I'm also reminding myself, well, I haven't interacted with the system much. I need to get used to this. I need to look for the, you know, like the ways of streamlining this process. CIG does need to do something though about streamlining the process of inventory management for players, because so many people would start doing it and they were trying to do it and then they'd just go, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to buy it where at the destination I get to. Well, the looting system that we've currently got, right, is based on the stuff that we have in Squadron 42. In Squadron 42, you're not hoarding gear, you're literally just grabbing stuff off a dead body to replenish yourself as you're going through your mission. Whereas in Star Citizen, we're being little loot goblins fucking hoarding everything that we can get our greedy little mitts on. So we need a more comprehensive inventory system than what Squadron 42 does. Yeah, Aiden, I get that. The whole, you know, like ordering the stuff from your warehouse to your drawer. From a gameplay perspective though, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't need that level of realism there. The closest to that level of realism that I want to see is, for example, I set my spawn at Orison and I leave a whole bunch of gear there, right? I go to Grim Hex and I'm like, fuck, man, I forgot all my fucking, you know, sniper scopes. But I need to get my glint on when I go out fucking sniping people, right? Well, in the current iteration of the game, I need to then go back to Orison, pick up the items, and then fly it to Grimhex. What I'd like to see CIG do is that Amazon type system where it's like, all right, I can see my scopes over at Everest Harbor. I want those, and I want them brought to Grimhex. Oh, sorry, at Orison, I want them brought to Grimhex. I'm going to select those items, I'm going to package them into a box, and I want them sent here to Grimhex to go to my elevator. Creates a mission, I pay some credits, get shipped over to Grimhex in like 10 minutes, and it's there. Done. And then I go back to the item bank and I'm able to grab that stuff out. That's the iteration where I would like to see the inventory system go, but I do not need to go from stuff in my warehouse to putting it in a drawer. But here's the thing as well, is like I took the inventory or the item bank system as like I go to my wardrobe and then I'm looking for clothes to put on, and the way I saw it was I took the stuff out of the wardrobe, I put it into a box, and then I take the box and I go over to my bed and then I put the clothes on, right? Now, I know some people will pick out their items before they put them on and they'll throw them on the bed and they'll be like, yeah, that's what I'm wearing. Other people will just pull stuff out of the wardrobe and they'll just shove it straight on. But we're playing a video game as well, right? So we might as well remove steps that are unnecessary. Like putting stuff into a drawer added no gameplay value beyond extending the amount of time it took to get ready. Like that's the serious problem that we're dealing with, is like CIG does keep implementing mechanics under the pretense of like, oh yeah, this is, you know, the logical thing of how you do things, but then when they test them out, they have an idea. Like, I can guarantee it, the developers were probably sitting there going, hey, this doesn't feel that great. You reckon the players are going to like it? You know, like, why are we putting stuff into one box and then into another? And, you know, the senior would have been there and they would have just said, well, systematically, we're just replicating what the fucking elevators do, right? We're just doing exactly what the elevators do, the freight elevators. And then, yeah, it gets into the player's hands and the developer who brought this point up, you know, like, why are we putting stuff into a drawer for the player to then put on themselves, is vindicated. And they're like, yeah, we should have done that, you know. You guys should listen to me, and then they get a promotion. And they end up in that position where hopefully they implement better changes. Or the more likely thing is that they find out as they go higher up in a corporate environment that they're bound more and more by being told what to do by their bosses. But these are the things, like, those are the small wins that CIG can, you know, seek out and look for. You know, another thing that CIG could do, and it's the ASOP, you know, it's an issue with the ASOP terminals, right? Like, right now, if you land your ship at a station and then you decide that you want to call up a ship that you left at a different station, but you're sitting there like, fuck, I just got to claim it. I'm going to lose all the kit that's on it and have to fly all the way back over there, pick the ship up, bring it all the way back here. Like, all this extra time to do stuff. Why can't I just have that ship delivered to me here? Why does it need to be a claim? Why can't we generate a mission that has an NPC pick up your ship at that hangar and fly it over to the hangar that you're at? What do we see as the player when we're interacting with the system that would break the immersion that we're experiencing? If anything, claiming the ship is more immersion breaking than it would having the ship delivered, and forcing the player to do something that, that's time intensive, that makes their gameplay not as enjoyable in this regard, is, in my opinion, counterintuitive to what CIG wants to achieve. Game designers want their audience to be engaged with the game mechanics that keep them playing. You don't want your players engaging with too much tedium. There needs to be some tedium to break up, the exciting stuff, so that you have your players riding bloody dopamine waves. When in the troughs of the dopamine waves, what they're doing is, practical stuff that sets them up for the next dopamine peak, right? So anything that you have players doing in that trough should be always working towards players, being able to have fun. So if I don't have the ship that I need at my station, I should not be sitting there going, fuck, I don't want to claim my ship on it because I'm going to lose all the stuff on it. It should be a ship that I want is at the station. I don't have the time to go and pick it up. I'll create a mission, throw some credits at an NPC. They'll bring it here. It'll have all my kit on it. Good to go. Yeah, 100% Aiden. And that's what I think should happen. And these are things, these are the quality of life things that CIG need to look at introducing into Star Citizen to help players manage their time better. With what Old Mate's complaining about throughout this post is CIG's made changes that they just don't like, and they believe CIG isn't listening to the feedback that has been given to them. They are listening, they're just not prioritizing because so much of it's negative. If you want a developer to take on board what you have to say for changing something or for introducing something, holy shit, General Desperado raided me again. Got a raid and run? No worries, mate. Thanks for the raid, really appreciate it, mate. I'll catch you around. Have a good night. For those who have just joined right now, currently in the middle of a bit of a rant talking about this particular post here. In essence, what Old Mate's, he's done an open letter to the devs and CIG twice, just essentially saying that CIG isn't listening to the backers enough and they keep introducing things that the backers don't want. Their issues, they bring up scope glint, they bring up master modes, and now they're bringing up the inventory system. There's a lot to digest here. And what we've been doing is we've been solving all of Star Citizen's problems and, making all of the design decision solutions that CIG needs for them. The most recent thing that we're talking about though is all the time sinks that CIG's got in the game right now. We need CIG introducing mechanics that help players save time instead of taking time away from us. So claiming your ship that has stuff on it, instead of you sitting there going, oh shit, the ship that I want is at a different station and it's got all the kit on it that I need, but I don't have the time to go fly back to that station, pick up the ship, fly back to where I'm at now, and then do the thing that I was going to do. I've had some complaints. Realism is a problem apparently, and apparently CIG is not taking into account that this thing is a game. I don't think there's really much more. I think we've gone off on quite a few tangents on this particular topic, so we're going to call it there on this rant.